Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Ladies Lounge. And today I'm joined by my co-host, Felicia, Sakina, and Cordelia. So today's topic is a very interesting one, and is gender affirming care for minors. Puberty blockers as a treatment for gender dysphoria will no longer be prescribed by NHS England indefinitely. The ban will be reviewed in 2027. Do we support this ban and why? I'll pass the topic to Sakina to tell us what her opinions are.
The first thing that comes to my mind is, why is there being a ban? Why are we stopping it, and why is it for that period? There must be a bigger reason behind it. It can't just be, oh, we're going to have a ban and we're going to have it for a period of time just for the sake of. So those are the questions that it asks me, and why we're actually thinking about it in the first place. There's a reason why they're in place at the moment. What the full reasons are, I don't know. But why they're now choosing to put a limited period on a ban on it, I don't know as well. So those are the questions that pose into my head, making me think, what's going on underneath? They're not, obviously, that hasn't been made publicized to everybody to know. So it's quite hard to have I would say an open opinion about it, because how can I say something about something if I don't have all the facts? So for me, it's quite tricky in that perspective, but it does make me think, something underlining is happening there that's not being said. That's in the forefront of my head. Yeah.
Okay, so you don't support, you think there shouldn't be a ban?
Not that there shouldn't be, it's why. I don't know. Yes, I don't know.
Okay, Kalisha, what's your opinion on the first question?
Definitely. I do think it is worth discussing. However, just to echo what Sakina has said, I believe that for us to be able to fully discuss something, we have to be, well, for me personally, I have to be well informed about the topic and the reasoning behind it. I've not personally seen a lot about these drugs publicized. And also, we're not informed as a public about the possible side effects or negative impact that they may or may not have had on the children thus far.
I think we're aware that it's not a full ban on everything, it's just for children. If we have a limit, that's my personal opinion. I've got 3 kids. If my kids can't drive until they're 18, if my kids can't drink until a certain age, they're adults, right? So I think that those sort of drugs should be given to kids if they want it, when the kids are old enough to make the decision. That's my opinion. I feel I know that is a subject that affects kids, and I know I've seen people in my kids' school who probably have been affected by this, and it's a serious issue. If you have a child through some sort of gender dysphoria, it's a big issue, right? But I think that to ensure that kids are not they don't make a mistake, and I think I've said a story before about my brother. My brother he'd probably kill me if I say that again. But anyway, we're 5 girls, and my brother was the first son that was born, and everybody in the house were wearing dresses, they were wearing skirts, and they were all like, and he couldn't understand why he has to wear trousers. And he was like, no, I want to wear trousers, I want to wear wigs, I want to wear makeup. And my mom was worried, and my mom realized quickly that because he was seeing us, my mom took him to another family friend, that they were all boys, right? And he quickly, realized that he was a boy, and he saw what other boys do, and he started playing with his cars. So I think that, I'm not saying that's what's happening to all the other kids, but I think that there's a certain level of a child should be a bit older to be able to make, because it's a life-changing decisions. So if you're having puberty blockers, the child probably, it's irreversible, I think, to some extent. And I think that I would support the ban for any child below 18. And when it gets to 18, they can make the decision. That's my opinion. Obviously, it might not be popular, but that's what I think. I think saying that, we'll go back to the next question, which says, or the next point, most activists are saying that the trans minor voices are being disregarded. And I think that's probably that. I feel like, what I've just said might be, it might make their point valid, but what do you guys think? Do you think that the ban is for kids that genuinely have those problems, banning it till they're 18 for the next 3 years? Do you think their voice is being shut down or disregarded, their feelings?
I'd be interested to know what they're regarding as a minor, because what I've always understood to be a minor is anybody under the age of 16 or 18. So what are we calling a minor? Are we even saying somebody that's just been born at the day one is a minor and they have a voice to be able to say that they're allowed to go through any change that they want to? It's similar to what you were saying before, Steph. It comes down to, if as a child is a child and an adult is an adult, who makes the decisions? Is it the parent or the child? I'm not saying that somebody's voice should be silenced because they are a minor or they are an adult, but making a decision in life full stop is not easy, especially if it's a life-changing decision. So all of these things always need to be addressed with knowledge, counseling, education, and not taken lightheartedly, because unfortunately there will come a time where people will say, oh no, that's not the case anymore. And that happens. I'm not just saying that that's going to happen in the trans domain, but it can happen in any domain, in any sphere, whether it's working, whether it's marriage, relationships, whether it's finances. It happens day to day because we're humans and it's a human nature for these things to happen. And you say, oh, not today. But then when it comes to a decision that is going to be life altering, that cannot be reversed, I really do feel that it needs to be backed with education, with the full knowledge of what you're entering into, with support. Don't get me wrong, because I think when we isolate ourselves, it can be very difficult to hear the truth through the noise or through the silence that there was. So I think it's really important that people do have loved ones around them. One thing we do know in our history in the past 20 years alone, that decisions that were made 20 years ago, we are facing the outcomes of them today in our world, where there's a lot of regrets based on them. So I think things do need to be taken with not just a pinch of salt, but with education. When I say education, please hear me saying, I'm not saying you have to go to a classroom, but I mean, get knowledge, do your research, do extent. And when you've done that research, you do more research, because it doesn't mean that that particular person is the best one. And everybody that you're facing, whether it is a medical surgeon or it's a legal person, they are human beings behind that title. So they can make mistakes as well. So I think it's always important to have that varied, open discussion in your tighter circle as well, and not enter into things with a narrow mind.
Great, thank you. I think one of the things you said that's very key is counseling. Is, when if a child is coming out with gender dysphoria, do they have enough support? Have they talked through it? Have the parents studied about it? Have they looked at other options before going through the route? I'm not sure. I haven't done a lot of research in it, but how do they decide what child to give the drugs to? Have they done enough counseling? Have the kids? Because sometimes it might just be a child just needs that extra support, or just need that extra, concentrate and figure out what exactly is going on. Because I know I've read and I've seen people who have done the surgery or who's taken the drugs and they regret it later just because they knew there were other things on the line that wasn't treated. So I think one thing you've said, which I really clocked in on, is get the knowledge, get enough counseling, speak to enough people, and then before making those decisions. Cordelia, can you tell us your opinion on the ban, and what do you think about this topic so far?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the ban I think is a good idea. Anything to do with minors, I think we have to tread more carefully. You can't just take a drug and give a child and say, oh, let's stop your growth for now whilst we figure out what's going on with you. What happens to good old counseling? Is that not a thing anymore? If somebody is going through something, a child, and we keep forgetting, I think we're giving too much power to children, and we forget that children are children and they rely on us to make certain decisions for us. And we're older for a reason. We're wiser, we're more experienced. We're supposed to guide these children. Yes, we should hear the child's voice. There's nothing wrong with it. Hear the child, listen to them, take on board what they're saying. But them being children, you can tell them, you know what, I understand how you're feeling, I get it, and it's all valid, but you'd have to wait because one, you're still growing. as a human being, our brains don't fully develop until about 25, the age of 25. So just allow yourself time and full and put them through counseling. But the use of drugs to suppress something that's natural on anybody, I think it's morally wrong. And I'm glad that the UK has put a ban on this thing.
Thank you very much. I think I'm gonna just go on the other side and ask you a question. So if a child realizes they're in the wrong body, for example, and they let them develop and they have their boobs and they have all the, they go through, they have their boobs and they grow as a girl and they realize they're on the wrong body. Some people will say it's better for them to have the drug so they can stop it while they try to, if they decide to be a boy, then it's easier for them to just transition into a boy. What's your thoughts on that? I think I'm just going on the other side. I'm trying to see.
I would say, okay. I would say for as long as what's been done is perfectly okay. For as long as there are no further studies to confirm what would happen later on in a child's life doing these drugs, we can't just see things on face value. We need to look a bit deeper on situations and not just take things on face value. So I would say absolutely the ban is right. What the child is going through, it can be emotionally and psychologically distressing. That's where we have psychotherapists. It's not easy to become a psychotherapist. We've got counselors, let them come in and help guide the child. And this fight, we try to fight nature a lot, and nature always comes back. When nature comes back to take its rightful position, it's always damaging. We've seen people that have gone through it that regret the transition as adults. So why not allow them to make that decision as adults? If they can afford the surgery, or if there is an NHS, if there's a way the government can help them as adults, I say definitely anything below the age of 25, do not allow them to, I wouldn't say don't allow them to make that decision. Help them with counseling and psychotherapy. And then after 25, absolutely come back to us. And if this is what you truly want, look at what support is available and give them that support. Thanks for that. I think the average age is 18 to be an adult in the UK. So I think it's 18. The ban is up to 18, just to clarify that. And one thing else, when we're talking backstage, and the drugs that are given to the kids are actually drugs that were initially developed or produced to castrate pedophiles, so they can stop having those urges to abuse children. It's mind-boggling for me to see that those drugs are given to kids as well. And those are the drugs that have been given to kids. And also, it said, according to the reports here, since 2018, there have been a 5-fold increase in minors identifying as trans. Why do you think this is? Is it that people are feeling more confident with their truth, or this increase is due to trans now being a trendy, is being trendy to some? What do you think? It's quite a big increase, a 5-fold increase from 2018 to 2024 of kids under 18 identifying as trans. What do you think is the reason? I think one thing we know about children, we've all been children, we've all been there. When you're young, it especially gets to a certain age, the opinion of your peers, what's happening in that moment in your age group matters a lot, more than anything. So that influence, that peer influence is something that's very profound in a child's life. We cannot deny that. I wouldn't say, I wouldn't be, I would say small-minded to just reduce it to, oh, it's just peer pressure. But we also cannot rule out the fact that it could be peer pressure. They're children. They want to be cool. This is like seen as a cool thing now. I could decide, oh, I'm not a girl. Oh, I want to be a boy. We've all had those feelings growing up. And thank God, there are many times I wish I was a man. even as an adult, when you go through certain things during labor, you're like, oh my God, I wish I was a man. I don't have to go through that. But at the same time, I appreciate being a woman. I love being a woman with all the things that come with it. I've accepted it. So I think that, yes, peer pressure could play a massive role, and we should not negate that fact. Thank you. Kalisha, I'm going to ask you a question. If you have a child and your child comes up to you and tell you, a girl child or a boy child, and say, I feel like I'm in the wrong body, how would you deal with that?
Again, because it is not a thing of saying, oh, God forbid, and that type of thing, because it's easy to bring in our own opinions as adults. It is important to actually try to understand that small human, because they are people, albeit small people. They are still people, and you do have to do your due diligence by treating it with as much care and concern as you possibly can. One of my cousins, her daughter identifies as trans, and my cousin had to have a discussion with her daughter, and her daughter is only 10. And her daughter, she has gender dysphoria, and she has had to really take the time to understand her child, to approach things in a sensitive way, and just really be compassionate toward her. And yeah, it's been an emotional time for not only her daughter, but also for my cousin, who now has to educate herself, become more informed, and also understand that these are not about her own feelings, but her child's feelings are the priority in this particular instance. As a mother, I think that she's done the right thing by really prioritizing her child's mental health, and seeking counseling has been key. So that's what I'm basing my thought process on. But if that ever happens to me, then my opinion may be the same. It may change. I don't know. But that's where I am currently.
Sakina, I think I'll throw the question to you.
My opinion is very short and simple on this one. If I'm ever faced with that situation with the children that still call me mum, and if I was to give birth and have children, even for adoption or fostering, I pray that God will sanction me with a brain to be able to listen and not bring my opinions before theirs. That's what I pray for, that I can be humble, I can show humility, I can show love, and I can show care. Because at the end of the day, they are my child, and it must have taken whatever it is for them to say this to me, and I need to show them love. Who am I not to show them love going through any situation? So that's for me. I don't know what my answer may be, because I could say something now and it could change. I don't know. But I pray that that is my reaction, that I am enamored with love and support for them.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sakina, for that. And again, I think we're all in agreement that anyone going through these sort of issues with their kids, I think one of the first things is counseling. Ensure you hear your child and ensure that they have enough counseling before you take any further step. So thank you so much for your time. We're going to go on a short break. I'll be back shortly.